All right, ready to dive deep. Today it's one of the most fascinating chapters in ancient history, the Indus Valley Civilization.
If you're prepping for the UPSC, you know this is a must-know, especially that GS1 ancient history section.
Definitely crucial for those exams. But
Yeah.
honestly, this civilization is just amazing for anyone interested in history or just curious about, well, where we come from.
It's incredible. This civilization was around the Indus River basin, thriving alongside ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. Imagine boasting these incredible cities and innovations as far back as 3300 BCE.
Wow, think about that. That's over 2,000 years. It makes it older than the Roman Empire. And we're not just talking like simple settlements here.
Oh, absolutely not. This civilization had complex city planning. They had a writing system that still, to this day, baffles
Yeah,
experts.
like what were they writing?
And there are potential links to modern-day Hinduism.
Really? That's amazing.
It's almost like stepping into a time machine, right? Uncovering these secrets of a forgotten world.
Totally. Hey, so studying the Indus Valley Civilization, it isn't just about memorizing names and dates for an exam.
No, not at all.
It's about connecting with a vibrant past, appreciating appreciating the ingenuity of these ancient people.
And understanding how their innovations may have shaped later Indian culture.
Definitely. Okay, so let's just set the scene first. Picture the Indus River Basin, fertile land, moderate climate.
Perfect setting for a civilization.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that a lot of this terrain is quite arid today.
Yeah, it is. It makes those achievements even more impressive when you think about that.
So speaking of their civilization, the story unfolds like over three main phases.
Mm.
Early Harappan, the mature Harappan, and then the late Harappan. It's kind of like watching a society, evolve, adapt, and ultimately leave a mark.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to, decipher it.
The early Harappan phase was all about independent communities, experimenting with farming, establishing those regional trade networks. And then when we move into the mature Harappan phase, you see a remarkable shift towards integration. It's pretty amazing.
Like they're getting organized.
Yes. Suddenly, there's a standardized system of weights and measures, a shared script appears, and urban centers begin to flourish.
Yeah.
Like these diverse communities just decided, hey, let's unite.
Let's create something amazing.
Yes, exactly. And it was truly extraordinary.
It's incredible how they go from, scattered settlements to these meticulously planned cities. And this is where, names like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro come into play.
Right.
I remember learning about Harappa in school, like way back when. The first Indus site unearthed back in 1920.
It was a groundbreaking discovery, like stumbling upon, this lost civilization. And then just a year later, Mohenjo-daro emerges, another sprawling urban center coming out of the sands of time. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site,
Wow.
a real testament to its significance in global history.
It's crazy to think about these sites being excavated, like revealing streets, houses, even drainage systems. I mean, they've survived for thousands of years. Talk about a window to the past.
I know. These sites, places like Rakhigarhi, Dhalavira, and Lothal, are spread across present-day India and Pakistan, and they paint just a vivid picture of how vast and how complex this civilization really was.
Let's talk about the city planning, because these cities, they were way ahead of their time.
Oh, for sure.
Grid patterns, organized streets, sophisticated drainage systems. I mean, even separate drains for wastewater,
They were thinking ahead.
indoor plumbing in some houses.
It's truly remarkable, especially when you compare it to other civilizations from that same era. The level of sanitation, I mean, it speaks volumes about their, understanding of hygiene, urban development. This wasn't just building cities, they were creating like sustainable and organized living spaces.
They were really ahead of the game. And it wasn't, like cookie cutter houses either. You had different sizes, indicating social differences, right?
Oh, yeah, some grand, some more modest.
And then there are incredible public structures, like the Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro, this massive pool. It makes you wonder, what were these gatherings like? What did they believe in?
It really does. The Great Bath, I think, points towards the importance of water in their culture, possibly for religious or social ceremonies. It's a good reminder that beyond the impressive infrastructure, there was this vibrant social and spiritual life going on in these cities.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so daily life. What do they eat? What did they believe in? What
Mm.
filled their days? Agriculture, I mean, it's obviously played a vital role. They cultivated wheat, barley, peas. There's some evidence that points to rice cultivation, which is, I mean, that's pretty advanced for their time.
Their agriculture, it was crucial. The fertile Indus River basin provided the perfect setting, to grow their crops, raise livestock. It allowed their civilization to truly thrive.
But they weren't just farmers, right?
Oh, no, definitely not.
They were skilled artisans, metalworkers, potters, weavers. I mean, the whole shebang. The artifacts are breathtaking.
Mhm.
Intricate jewelry, beautiful pottery, and those mysterious seals, the ones with the undeciphered script.
It's like a giant puzzle waiting to be solved. Images of animals, figures, maybe even deities, all meticulously engraved. We get these glimpses into their beliefs, their structure, even maybe their administration. But without cracking the code of their script, it's like we have a book, but we can't read it.
So frustrating. It's crazy that they had this writing system we still don't understand.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, for decoration either. They were using these seals for trade. They had networks that spanned huge distances.
Massive distances. We're talking connections to Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq.
Wow.
Incredible.
It's just incredible. It really speaks to like a level of economic and social complexity. I mean, for a civilization over 4,000 years ago, they weren't isolated communities, were they? They were connected, exchanging goods, ideas, maybe even cultural practices with far-off places.
They were global citizens, in a sense.
Okay, so master traders, skilled artisans. But what about their religious beliefs? What did they hold sacred? What were their rituals? This is where it gets really interesting.
It really does. Remember that Proto-Shiva seal we mentioned earlier? It depicts a figure in, like, a yoga posture surrounded by animals. It sparked a lot of debate. Some believe it could be an early representation of the Hindu god Shiva,
Wow.
hinting at a possible connection between this civilization and later Hinduism, but it's still very much up for discussion.
I mean, it would be amazing if they were connected in that way, but who knows?
We're still learning.
And let's not forget the female figurines found at the sites. They often wear like elaborate headdresses and jewelry.
Right.
Leads to the theories about the worship of a mother goddess, right?
Yeah.
Fertility, abundance.
Makes you wonder how these beliefs and practices evolved over time. What other connections might exist?
So many questions.
Right. These artifacts and symbols give us valuable clues, but deciphering their precise meaning is still a work in progress. Imagine trying to understand a culture just based on artwork and symbols.
That's what they're doing.
It takes careful interpretation and a little bit of imagination.
A lot of imagination, probably.
Yes.
Okay, so the big question. What happened to this amazing civilization? What led to its decline?
It's a mystery. A mystery that has puzzled historians for decades.
It's a good mystery.
It is. The Indus Valley Civilization didn't just vanish overnight. There are multiple theories, each offering a piece of the puzzle. Climate change is a major contender. Imagine a shift in rainfall patterns, leading to droughts or floods, impacting their agriculture, their entire way of life.
And wouldn't that explain why the region is so much drier today? It's like a complete contrast to the fertile land that must have been there thousands of years ago.
Exactly. The environment plays a crucial role in the rise and fall of any civilization. But it wasn't just climate change. Other things could have played a part in their decline. We have evidence of earthquakes in the region, so a major seismic event could have devastated their cities and their infrastructure. Then there's the possibility that the Indus River just changed its course,
Really? No.
disrupting their trade routes and their access to water.
So it might not have been one single event, right?
Totally not.
Like a combination of things, environmental changes, natural disasters, maybe even internal pressures or external conflicts, a domino effect leading to the gradual decline of this incredible civilization.
It's complex, and historians are still piecing together those clues, trying to understand that full story.
It's almost like tragic to think about this sophisticated society, the cities, the networks, the culture, just fading into like the mists of time. What can we learn from their story? What insights can they offer us today?
That's what's so great about studying history. It's not just about the past, it's about understanding the present and shaping the future. The Indus Valley Civilization, even though it existed, thousands of years ago, has so much to teach us about resilience, about innovation, and about the complex relationship between humans and the environment.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From impressive city planning and trade networks to mysteries about their scripts and the theories about their decline. There's so much to think about.
Before we, delve even deeper into their political structure, their social life, their religious beliefs, just take a moment to reflect on what has really stood out to you so far, what sparks your curiosity, what questions are swirling in your mind.
It's amazing.
We'll be back soon to explore even more fascinating aspects of the Indus Valley Civilization. Welcome back to our exploration of the Indus Valley Civilization. As we go even deeper, I'm curious, what's resonating with you so far? Are you intrigued by their advanced city planning, their mysterious script, or maybe those hints of connections to later Indian culture?
There's just so much to unpack. Before we move on, though, I'm really curious about their political structure. We've talked about the cities, those vast trade networks. But what about leadership? Was there, like, a king or a queen ruling these cities?
You know, that's a question that's puzzled scholars for decades. Unlike other ancient civilizations, we haven't really found any grand palaces or imposing statues of rulers.
Interesting.
So it suggests that their political system might have been a little different.
Different from the typical monarchies we see.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how were they governed then? Did they have a council of elders? A group of powerful merchants making the decisions? Or was it something totally different?
It's a fascinating puzzle, right? There's evidence pointing towards some form of centralized authority, though. Think about those standardized weights and measures, the uniform bricks used in construction, even that shared script that appears across such vast distances.
That's true. Yeah, it's like
So,
they had a rule book for city planning and trade, and everybody followed it.
exactly.
But without a king or queen who enforced these rules, who had the power?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Some scholars speculate they might have had, like, a council or an assembly representing different communities, different social groups. Others believe that religious leaders or maybe a priestly class played a big role in governance. It's possible their political structure was just something totally unique, like something we haven't really encountered in other ancient civilizations, something uniquely Indus.
Yeah. I guess it's a good reminder that we shouldn't just impose our modern concepts of leadership on the past, right?
Right.
These ancient societies could have developed completely different ways of organizing themselves. It's like we're trying to solve a riddle, but some of the pieces are missing.
A very complex riddle. And until we decipher that script or uncover more, definitive archaeological evidence, their system of governance, it's going to remain a mystery.
A captivating one.
For sure. But even without those exact details of their political structure, I think we can still learn things about their social lives. So let's shift focus a little bit
Okay.
to the everyday people of the Indus Valley. What can we learn about their families, their jobs, their beliefs?
Well, one thing that struck me earlier was the mention of varying house sizes. It suggests social differences, some families being wealthier than others.
Yeah.
What can we learn from these architectural clues?
Those variations in house sizes, in layouts, they offer really valuable glimpses into their social structure. Some homes were larger, more elaborate, possibly belonging to elite families or those holding important positions,
Makes sense.
while other houses were, smaller, more modest, likely housing artisans, laborers, those engaged in different trades.
Okay, so picture this. We're walking down a busy street in Mohenjo-Daro. We see grand houses, with spacious courtyards, maybe even indoor wells and bathrooms, hinting at a life of comfort and privilege. And then we pass by rows of smaller dwellings, workshops that are just buzzing with activity, marketplaces overflowing with goods.
It's like a snapshot, frozen in time.
It is. And those marketplaces, those must have been like the hub of social and economic activity.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Traders from far-off lands arriving with exotic goods, artisans showing off their crafts, farmers bringing in their produce, and people from every walk of life just mingling, exchanging stories. It's incredible.
Imagine the energy in those marketplaces.
I know. Those carnelian beads, we mentioned those earlier, right? Found all over the Indus region, even as far away as Mesopotamia. It just shows you how skilled they were as traders and artisans. What other treasures were they exchanging in these bustling markets?
The Indus people, they were known for their craftsmanship. They produced exquisite pottery, beautiful jewelry, finely woven textiles, tools made from copper, bronze. They even had standardized weights and measures, like we talked about, which really suggests a sophisticated system of trade and commerce.
It's amazing to think about those objects traveling across like vast distances, connecting these different cultures. And it speaks to like a level of interconnectedness that we might not think about when we think about the ancient world.
Absolutely. And beyond the practical parts of trade, these exchanges also probably led to the flow of ideas, beliefs, technologies, all enriching their civilization.
That's like a cultural exchange program, but ancient.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have this picture of a society with social hierarchy, thriving trade networks, skilled artisans, but what about their inner lives? What did they believe in? What rituals did they practice? What gave meaning to their world?
Ugh. The question of religious beliefs, it's shrouded in mystery, like we've said. But those recurring motifs, those symbols, the female figurines, animal imagery, the Proto-Shiva seal offer some clues.
It's funny, every time we mention that Proto-Shiva seal, I think of yoga poses.
Yeah.
Is there a connection there? Did the Indus people practice something like yoga?
That's a really good question. While we don't have evidence of a formal yoga system, the way we see in later Indian traditions, that seal does suggest they were aware of body postures and maybe even meditative practices. The figure's position, the hands, the animals all around, it hints at a spiritual connection.
Like a focus on inner awareness.
Yeah.
As they're tapping into something ancient, something that just transcends time and culture, a connection between the body, the natural world, the divine.
And remember, the female figurines, often adorned with those headdresses, jewelry. Some scholars see them as representations of a mother goddess, a deity associated with, fertility, abundance, the power of creation.
It makes sense, given how important agriculture was to their society.
It does.
A mother goddess ensuring a good harvest would have been very important.
Exactly. And let's not forget those animal motifs, the bulls, unicorns, even creatures that seem to blend different species. These animals, they might have had a special significance in their belief system.
Representing different things like power, fertility, maybe even the divine.
Exactly. For instance, the bull, you see it on seals and pottery, might have symbolized strength, virility, the agricultural cycle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how those symbols just appear again and again, like a visual language, telling us about their worldview, their beliefs, their connection to nature.
And we can't forget those fire altars found at places like Kalibangan. Fire, with its transformative power, it played a big role in a lot of ancient cultures, often symbolizing purity, sacrifice, connection to the divine.
Fire is such a powerful symbol.
It is.
So putting it all together, we're seeing people who were deeply connected to nature, who revered certain animals, symbols, and likely had rituals and beliefs that shaped their understanding of life, death, and the whole cosmos.
Like we're putting together a mosaic, right?
Yeah.
Each fragment giving us a little peek into their spiritual world. While a lot of questions remain unanswered, these clues help us start to reconstruct those belief systems and to appreciate the richness of their inner lives.
It's incredible how much we can learn from these seemingly ordinary objects. Pots, seals, figurines, they're whispers from the past, giving us these insights into a civilization that vanished thousands of years ago. But before we get totally lost in the mysteries of their beliefs, I'm curious about their impact. What did they leave behind? How did they shape the world that came after them?
That's a great question. That takes us right to the heart of, what makes studying history so fascinating. The Indus Valley Civilization didn't just disappear. It left this rich cultural legacy that still resonates today in the Indian subcontinent and beyond.
So what are some of those lasting imprints? What traces of their ingenuity and beliefs can we still see?
Well, remember those potential connections to Hinduism.
Yeah.
Some scholars think that certain aspects of their religious beliefs, their practices, might have found their way into those later Indian traditions. Those female figurines, for example, they could be seen as forerunners to the Hindu goddess Shakti. And that Proto-Shiva seal, with its meditative posture, might hint at early forms of yogic practices that would later become central to Hinduism.
It's like seeing echoes of their spiritual beliefs, just resonating through time, shaping and influencing this major world religion. And it's not just religion. Think about their urban planning. Those grid patterns, the sophisticated drainage systems, those ideas didn't just vanish, right? Could those have inspired later city builders?
Absolutely. While it's tough to draw direct lines of influence, it's very possible that some aspects of their urban planning, their tech innovations, influenced later societies, like their use of those standardized weights and measures.
Right.
That points toward a system that really facilitated trade, something that's crucial for any empire or kingdom.
For growth, for economic growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And their craftsmanship, those intricate designs on their pottery, the techniques for metalworking, weaving, these skills likely just continued to be passed down through generations, influencing the whole artistic and craft heritage of the region.
Wow. It's like a thread of cultural continuity just woven through Indian history. The Indus Valley Civilization, even though it declined so long ago, it left behind this legacy of innovation, creativity, spiritual exploration, and it still inspires and captivates us today.
It really does.
So as we move to the final part of our deep dive, I feel like I'm full of awe. We've explored so much. Their cities, social structures, beliefs, their lasting impact. But one mystery remains, right?
Oh, yeah.
That undeciphered script.
It's one.
What secrets does it hold? What stories are just waiting to be unlocked?
That's the perfect way to transition to our final exploration. Join us as we delve into the enigma of that Indus script and think about those efforts to decipher it and what kind of impact it could have on our understanding of this incredible civilization.
We're back, and we've journeyed through these, incredible cities and social structures of the Indus Valley Civilization. We've thought about their spiritual beliefs, explored their lasting impact on later cultures.
So much to uncover.
But for me, there's one enigma that keeps calling to me.
That script.
That undeciphered script. It's like, we've got this treasure chest, it's full of ancient wisdom, but we don't have the key.
A tantalizing mystery for sure. It's captivated scholars for, decades. Just imagine if we could just crack that code, the Indus script.
Oh, it would be groundbreaking.
We could read their administrative records, understand their religious beliefs, in their own words, maybe even learn the names of these ancient people.
Wow, hear their voices across, millennia.
Exactly.
It would just revolutionize how we understand this civilization. So what are the hurdles here? Is it a totally unique language? Are there any clues that might help unlock these secrets?
Well, the Indus script, it's really complex, hundreds of distinct symbols, and we haven't found any bilingual inscriptions, like a Rosetta Stone, to give us a direct translation. So it's a lot harder than deciphering other ancient writing systems.
So it's a real linguistic puzzle. No, easy answers.
No, but researchers, they haven't given up hope.
Of course not. What approaches are they taking to try and unravel this ancient code?
Yeah. Well, they're using all sorts of methods, analyzing the patterns, the frequencies of symbols, comparing them with other ancient writing systems. They're looking at the context too. The seals with the animal imagery, pottery with inscriptions, even these tiny tablets they've found.
So like a detective story almost.
It is, piecing together these clues.
Are there any promising leads? Any glimpses into what the script might reveal?
Well, one interesting thing is that the Indus script seems to have a pretty consistent directionality. It's likely written from right to left. They've also found some symbols that might be, grammatical markers.
Okay, so that gives them some structure.
Yeah, indicating the structure of their language. And even though we haven't deciphered, complete sentences, there are repeating patterns. So it's not just random symbols. They were conveying information.
Like little whispers across time. What are some of the big theories about this language? What family of languages might it belong to?
That is a topic of a lot of debate. Some scholars believe it might be related to Dravidian languages, which are spoken in South India today. Others say maybe Indo-European or even ancient Mesopotamian languages. It's a tough one.
We just don't know.
Not yet.
It just makes you realize how much we still don't know about the ancient world and the people who lived in it. It's humbling, but it's also pretty exciting.
It is.
So while we wait for that, aha moment when the script finally gives up its secrets, let's zoom out a bit. We talked about the Indus Valley Civilization's connections to later Indian culture. How significant are those connections? What parts of their legacy are still visible today?
That's a crucial question, and it gets to, the core of why studying history is so fascinating. The Indus Valley Civilization didn't just disappear. It left this lasting impact.
It's still with us.
Yes. And while we can't draw, perfect straight lines of influence, there are some really interesting hints of continuity.
Okay. We've already talked about the possible religious links. Those female figurines, the proto-Shiva seal that maybe connect to Hindu deities and practices later on. Are there other aspects of their culture that might have had, a lasting influence?
Well, think about their urban planning, for example. That concept of organized cities with grids, streets, public sanitation systems, those ideas didn't just vanish.
They seem very modern.
Right. And it's plausible that those concepts really did influence city builders later on, contributing to that that tradition of urban development that, we still see in India.
Like they laid the foundation for a way of life, and it's shaped the Indian subcontinent for thousands of years.
Exactly.
And what about those standardized weights and measures? Could that have had a real impact on trade in the region? I mean, think about it. A standardized system of weights and measures, that's essential for fair trade, for economic stability. So it's very likely that this idea, something the Indus people developed, that it continued to be used, adapted by later societies, contributing to, bigger trade networks and economic prosperity.
It's amazing how these like tiny details can have such a profound and long-lasting impact.
Isn't it?
And we can't forget about their artistic side either. Those intricate designs, on their pottery, the jewelry, the techniques for weaving, all of that. Could that have influenced later artistic traditions in India?
It's definitely possible. Artistic styles, techniques, they often evolve, but they build on what came before. So you can imagine the skills, the aesthetic sensibilities of the Indus people being passed down, influencing Indian art and craft later on.
Like their legacy is just woven into the fabric of Indian culture, from its spiritual beliefs to its urban design, artistic heritage, all of it. It's a reminder that history isn't just like a bunch of events in the past. It's a living force that shapes us. It shapes who we are.
Exactly. And the Indus Valley Civilization, even though it's so far back in time, has so much to teach us about resilience, innovation, human creativity. Their story, even with all those mysteries, shows us what ancient societies were capable of and how connected human history really is.
It really is remarkable.
So to our listeners, we leave you with a challenge. Keep exploring the Indus Valley Civilization.
There's still so much to learn.
Delve deeper. Learn about their art, their innovations, their beliefs. You never know, maybe you'll be the one to uncover the key to their script or discover some new connection to their world.